You might love Digitech pedals, you might hate Digitech pedals. I personally have played through a ton of them. Here are 13 Digitech and DOD pedals that I think everybody should check out. I did several videos earlier this year of lists of pedals by various different brands that I personally think every guitar player should check out, and somehow or another I completely forgot to do one on Digitech and DOD. For the longest time, your choices for buying pedals were Boss, MXR, and Digitech or DOD, depending on which era you're talking about, before or after Digitech acquired DOD. That is also the reason why pedals from both brands are going to be mentioned on this list, as there is actually some bleed over there from one to the other there at one point in time. And as of, up until Harman decided to shut down both brands last year, both brands were considered part of the Digitech umbrella. So, without further ado, let's get down to it. So, here we go, in no particular order, for the most part. Number 1, the original Whammy pedal. This has become an extremely legendary pedal, and the originals, the first run of them, are now they're not that hard to find. They're out there, but they are really, really expensive on the used market. I saw one sell for $1,000 on eBay one time. I think that was more of a fluke than anything. They generally seem to sell more in the $400 to $600 range on the used market these days, but still, for any pedal, new or used, that is a ton of money. This is the pedal that Tom Morello used throughout all those early Rage Against Machine records. Dimebag used it early on. Think of that Whammy sound back in the 90s. This is the pedal that those people were using to make it. There have since been several other generations of the Whammy that have been released. I do particularly enjoy the Whammy 5, which is, of course, the latest and most current reiteration of the Whammy pedal. In my opinion, it sounds very, 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 very similar to the original. Basically, and it gets the job done very, very well. By the way, stay away from the Whammy 4. I have beat up on that pedal many times in the past. Stay away from it. That version sucks. But the rest of them are pretty awesome. Number 2, the DOD Rubberneck delay. This is a very unique delay that's actually one of the most recent releases, one of the last releases actually, before Harman decided to shut the doors on the DOD pedal brand altogether. Yes, I am still very bitter about that because they're fantastic. However, the DOD Rubberneck delay, there might still be a few units out there from in retailers' inventory that you can get a hold of. If you can't find them, probably going to run somewhere in the neighborhood of the $249 range, maybe a little bit less at this point. Regardless, this is an analog delay with a lot of different features on it, including a tap tempo, a feature that is very, very difficult to find on an analog delay because that to produce that circuit. Well, there's my understanding is that would be a very, very, very complex circuit. However, Digitech found a way, or DOD rather, found a way to get it done. So if you're looking for a really unique analog delay, if you can still find one, go check out the DOD Rubberneck. Number 3, the Digitech Bad Monkey Tube Overdrive. I happen to own one of these pedals, and let me tell you, this is Digitech's version. This is their Tube Screamer circuit. And of course everybody, just about every pedal company out there nowadays has a Tube Screamer circuit. This was Digitech's. When this was still a current product, nobody really paid a lot of attention to it because it said Digitech on it. However, the pedal community has since discovered this thing, and not only have they discovered it, everybody's beginning to realize this is an awesome, awesome pedal. And prices of this thing on the used market are beginning to rise quickly. What makes this thing so unique? There is that second control right there from the left that says low. In my opinion anyway, that is the thing that makes this pedal awesome, because this is, Tube Screamers in my opinion tend to be really, really mid-rangey and, and oftentimes a little trebly, and there's just not a whole lot of bottom end to it. This one's got plenty of bottom end, and you can see I've got that knob cranked because the way that I like to run this thing with a lot of extra bottom end to it, it just sounds, my God, it sounds awesome. I'm going to have to do a demo on this pedal by itself here at some point. There's a reason why everybody is suddenly starting to scrounge these things up. When I bought this thing about a year ago, I think I paid about 25 bucks for it. I haven't seen one sell for any less than about 60 since then. If you want one of these, you need to get on it. Number 4, the DOD Carcosa Fuzz. Yes, that's right, I am including a fuzz pedal in here, and I'm going to be honest, I don't know a whole lot about it because I'm not a fuzz guy. If you follow my channel for any length of time at all, you know I generally hate fuzz pedals. So, this is one, however, I'm throwing the fuzz guys, the fuzz fanatics a bone here because if you follow the pedal forums, on the Facebook pedal groups, groups like Pedal Boards of Doom, for example, which is a huge group, anytime that, the topic of a fuzz pedal comes up in those groups, the Carcosa Fuzz always seems to be one of the ones that's mentioned. So, there you have it. I'm probably not an expert on it, but there's a lot of fuzz fanatics out there that seem to like it, so maybe I ought to be open-minded. Maybe we ought to all check it out. Number 5, the Digitech Luxe Polyphonic Anti-Chorus. This has become my very, very, very favorite chorus pedal ever. And for 15 years, I had a Boss CE5 chorus ensemble on my pedal board. That was the only chorus that I used. That was I couldn't find one out there anywhere that I liked better than that one until this one came along, and this one kicked the CE5 off my board after 15 years. They describe this pedal as an anti-chorus because it's designed both to run in the effects loop and also does a very, very good job running into the front end of an amplifier. And it's a very, very simple design. It has a D2 knob and a level control. I like the level control cranked. The D2 knob turns straight up, is right in the middle, and that means that both signals are, in other words, virtually perfectly in time, and you can't really hear anything. But when you start to turn it up, one pitch goes up and you can hear the modulation start to speed up the more you go, and the same thing happens with the pitch going down when you turn it in the other direction. I love this pedal. I will never get rid of it. This one is a keeper. If you're looking for a killer chorus pedal, check out the Digitech Luxe. I did do a video on this when I first acquired this thing. I'll make sure and post a link to that down in the description so you can check it out for yourself. Number 6, the DOD Gunslinger Distortion. If there is any such thing as a Marshall in a box, and of course there are plenty, there might even be such things as a hot-rodded Marshall in a box, and of course there are plenty. This thing has got to be a super-duper hot-rodded Marshall with a supercharger in it on steroids in a box, because that's about what this thing sounds like to me. There is no shortage of gain on tap. This is a fantastic hard rock and metal distortion pedal, and it also does the lower gain distortion stuff very, very well. If you're looking for something a little bit different in a distortion pedal, but don't want anything all that too complicated or all that crazy, check out the Gunslinger. You might like it. I did a video on this one a while back too. I'll post the links to that one down in the description for you to check out as well. Number 7, the HardWire series pedals. And yes, I am including the entire series of pedals. This, in my opinion, is the point in time when Digitech finally began to turn things around. They came out with the HardWire series, and these were very, very well-built analog pedals, and they all sounded great. Full line of pedals. There was a tube overdrive, I think. There was a standard distortion. There was a metal distortion, and of course, there's a phaser. I actually own the phaser, but I got it strapped down to a pedal board at the moment. And a chorus and a tremolo and, a chromatic tuner, all kinds of pedals in that line, and every single one of them are absolutely awesome, and they're sleepers on the used market. Nobody seems to look for them anymore either. Check websites like the Guitar Center used site, check Reverb, check eBay. They're out there all over the place. They can be had for very, very affordable prices. And like I said, there's not a bad pedal in the line. Number 8. The DOD Meatbox Sub Synth. The original version of this pedal is one of the very first synthesizer pedals that were on the market, and a lot of those early 80s new wave bands were big fans of the Meatbox. The original versions of the Meatbox sell for big, several hundreds of dollars on the used market, $300-400 easy. Probably more than that if you can find one in really clean condition. Well, when Digitech came back to life here in the last several years, one of the pedals that they reissued was the Meatbox. So there was now a reissue available to the world to buy again. That is, up until Harman decided to close the doors on the Digitech and DOD brands. Yes, I am still bitter about that. So, if you are new to the synth pedal world, and there are all kinds of options out there today, keep in mind when the Meatbox first came out, it didn't have a whole lot of competition. It was still a relatively new technology back in the early 80s as far as pedals went. It's a relatively simple design, but there's a lot of really cool sounds to be had out of it. If you can find one, grab it. Number 9, the Digitech Jam Man Stereo. There are several versions of the Jam Man looper pedals. Many of them are still available in retailers' inventory today. The Jam Man was, in my opinion, kind of cool because, even though there for a while, Boss and Digitech kind of seemed to be competing against each other to see who could come out with the most complicated looper on the market. And it's kind of a toss-up as to who actually won that battle. I suppose it could be Boss because Harman decided to close the doors on the Digitech and DOD brands. Yes, I'm still bitter about that. Regardless, the later models of the Boss loop station, like the RC3, the RC30, that enabled you to save even more presets and more loops onto an SD card, that was a feature that the Jam Man had way early on, and Boss actually came out with that specifically to compete harder against Digitech. The Jam Man loopers were really popular there for a while. They're great looper pedals, and the prices have come down on them pretty extensively since they first came out. The Jam Man Stereo, which is, and again, this is the big one with the most options on it. Most of them, actually, I believe, are still available and can be had. So if you're looking for a good looper pedal, check out the Jam Man Stereo. Number 10, the DOD Overdrive Preamp 250. All of the big pedal companies that have been around since the late 70s, early 80s-ish, all have their legendary overdrives and distortions. Boss, of course, has the now legendary DS1 distortion and the SD1 Super Overdrive and the OD1 Overdrive. MXR, of course, has the Distortion Plus. Well, the Overdrive Preamp 250 was DOD's famous overdrive pedal. If you want to know how the Overdrive Preamp 250 might compare to some of those other legendary pedals that I just mentioned, go check out some of Yngwie Malmsteen's earlier recordings, because that's pretty much all he used on just about everything. And if it's good enough for Yngwie, I'm willing to bet it's good enough for just about any of the rest of us. And also, if you ask Yngwie that, I'm pretty sure he would probably tell you that. Number 11, the Digitech CabDryVR Dual Cabinet Simulator. I actually did a demo of this pedal on my channel not that long ago. Cab simulators are rapidly growing in popularity, and there are more and more cab sims and pedal version being added to the market every single day. This one is a very useful device. I have used it on several recordings since I first demoed it on my channel, and it sounds fantastic. You can run it mono or stereo. You can use it as one speaker or two speakers at a time. And there are also options on there for both guitar and bass. If you are in a situation where you are trying to record silently, where you might be playing on a small stage, don't have room for an amplifier, and need to run something direct into the soundboard, situations like that, a cab simulator pedal is a fantastic solution to all of these things, and the CabDryVR sounds fantastic. Retailers do still have some inventory left, but it is going fast. I highly suggest that you pick one of these up while you can. Number 12, the DOD Icebox Stereo Chorus. There have been a few different versions of this pedal that Digitech and DOD released, And, you know, they were all kind of part of that line that came out there in the late 80s and early 90s that had the weird, you know, they had metal housings, but they had the weird, like, plastic foot switch button things, you know, and the weird plastic battery door on the backside that always fell off and always got lost. And, you know, so then you have to get some gaff tape or something to, you know, if you're using batteries, you have to tape that door closed to keep the battery from falling out. And, you know this line of pedals was not without its problems. But that doesn't mean they didn't sound good. And my favorite out of that line happened to be the Icebox Chorus. Stereo inputs and outputs, and it, you know, was a very, very lush, kind of a bright sounding chorus in my opinion, and, you know, had a lot of different chorus sounds in it. If you happen to love chorus like I do, go find an Icebox chorus out there on the used market, as there are plenty out there to be had, and they're not all that expensive. This would be a great one to add to your chorus collection. Number 13, the Mosaic 12-string effect. This is a very, very, very unique pedal in my opinion. As it's described, this basically turns your 6-string guitar into a 12-string. And boy, does it do a magnificent job of that, at least from everything that I have seen and heard. I have had this pedal on my own personal wish list for quite a while now, and I need to get on it because, as I mentioned, Harman decided to close the doors on the Digitech and DOD brands. So, while there is still some inventory left out there among the retailers, it does seem to be going very, very quickly. This is a very, very unique effect, and one that I can find very useful in a number of situations. You know, and let's face it, you know, who else out there is, you know, has a pedal on the market that produces a 12-string effect? I personally can't think of anybody. The Mosaic, in my opinion, was a brilliant, brilliant design from the mind of Tom Cram, and I would really like to have one in my collection. I need to get on it. So, there you have it. Whether you love Digitech and DOD or you hate Digitech and DOD, there are 13 pedals that I personally think every guitar player should check out from the Digitech and DOD brands. The pedal community are just now beginning to discover, and in a lot of instances, discover for the first time, in a lot of instances, rediscover some of these pedals that Digitech has put out over the years, and are now beginning to realize also that they actually did, in fact, have a lot of great designs and great pedals out on the market that just were, for whatever reason, were underappreciated at the time that they were current, or maybe they could have just been a little bit too far ahead of their time. Who knows? Regardless, this video was a lot of fun to put together, brought back a lot of memories from my childhood, and there's a lot of these pedals on here that I don't own that I would really, really like to add to my collection someday. Please leave me a comment down below and tell me what your favorite Digitech pedal might be, and maybe one that we've all overlooked or forgotten about. Also, as I can find them anyway, I will post links to the pedals that I have mentioned down in the description below, as well as any videos that I may have personally done on some of these. If I have, I'll post links to those videos down in the description as well. And last but not least, please consider hitting the subscribe button to this channel if you haven't already, as well as the bell. That way you make sure and you get alerts to the next time that I upload content to this channel, and make sure that you don't miss out on it, because this is fun. Everybody hanging out together electronically and virtually together on YouTube, I think. I don't know. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.